Am I in the wrong for breaking up with my fiancée after she insisted on inviting her abusive ex to our wedding, revealing he still lived rent-free in her head? My fiancée and I were planning our wedding, and everything seemed to be on track until she dropped a bombshell. She wanted to invite her ex. Now, this wasn't just any ex. This was the guy who had treated her terribly during their relationship. He constantly put her down, told her she wasn't good enough, and acted like he was the best she could ever do. So when she brought up inviting him, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her why she would even consider inviting someone like that to our wedding. Her answer? She wanted to shove it in his face that she'd done better for herself. She wanted him to see that she was marrying someone who treated her right and that her life was better without him. At first, I didn't know how to respond. Then I asked her, "Are you really so hung up on him that you're going to make our wedding about him?" As soon as I said it, I realized how much this bothered me. The idea of standing at the altar with her thinking about how her ex might be reacting, it made me feel sick. I told her not to bother sending him an invitation because we weren't getting married anymore. She was completely stunned. She apologized immediately and said it was a stupid idea. She begged me to forget about it and promised she wouldn't bring him up again. But the damage was done. The fact that she even thought about inviting him made me question everything. Was this really someone I wanted to spend my life with? Someone who still cared so much about what her ex thought of her? She spent the rest of the day apologizing and trying to convince me that it wasn't as bad as it sounded. But no matter how much she apologized, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong. Update. After a few days of tension and awkward conversations, we decided to try premarital counseling. We'd been together for 4 years, and I thought we owed it to ourselves to at least try to work through this before making any final decisions. The wedding went from being called off to being postponed indefinitely. In counseling, I asked her again why she wanted to invite her ex. Her answers kept changing, and each one made me feel worse than the last. First, she said it was about payback, that she wanted him to feel bad for how he treated her. I asked her what would happen if he didn't care, or if he didn't even show up. Would she keep trying to prove something to him? Would our first home, or our first child, also become part of this weird competition in her head? She said no, but then tried a different explanation. She just wanted to prove her worth, to show him that he was wrong about her. That didn't sit right with me either. So your ex is the one who gets to decide your worth? I asked her. Every answer boiled down to the same thing. She cared way too much about what her ex thought of her. She denied it over and over again, but I couldn't ignore what I was hearing. It felt like no matter how much we talked about it, she couldn't let go of this need for validation from someone who had treated her so poorly. I told her plainly that I didn't want our marriage, or my place in her life, to be defined by what her ex thought or felt. I didn't want my happiness tied to whether or not he cared about us or our relationship. But no matter how many times we went over it in counseling, nothing seemed to change. Final update. We kept going to counseling for months, but things only got worse for me emotionally. It felt like every session revolved around her ex. What he did, how he made her feel, why she wanted him to see how far she'd come. At some point, I realized we were talking about him almost every day outside of counseling too. One day, during yet another exhausting conversation about why inviting him had been such a bad idea, it hit me. I didn't want this anymore. I didn't want a life where my wife's ex was still a constant presence, even if only in her head. I told her how I felt, that I couldn't do this anymore, that I needed someone who was fully present in our relationship and not still caught up in proving something to someone from their past. She didn't take it well. She begged me for more time in counseling and said I just didn't understand what she'd been through with him. But honestly, by that point, I didn't care anymore. I was done trying to fix something that felt so fundamentally broken. It's been a few weeks since we broke up now, and honestly, I feel relieved. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I don't have to hear about her ex anymore. His name isn't coming up in conversations. His shadow isn't looming over every decision we make as a couple. It feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. We've talked a few times since the breakup, mostly about practical stuff like splitting finances and property, but those conversations are short and civil. She stayed in the apartment since it was hers before we moved in together, and I've moved out into my own place. Looking back on everything now, I know I made the right decision. It's sad because we had some great years together, but sometimes love just isn't enough when there are unresolved issues like this hanging over your relationship. I'm ready to move forward with my life now, without any baggage from someone else's past weighing me down.